characteristic. Okay. So in the previous class already we discussed about the solubility definition and factors affecting the solubility and also Fermi's law. Okay. So today our topic is solubility of liquid solutions or liquid solutions. Sorry, vapor pressure of. So today topic is vapor pressure of liquid solutions. Vapor pressure of liquid solutions is today's topic. Okay. So what is the vapor pressure? So what is mean by vapor pressure? The pressure exerted by a vapor over a liquid surface when they are in equilibrium with each other. Is called as a vapor pressure. Okay. So vapor pressure is nothing but the pressure exerted by a vapor over a liquid surface when they are in equilibrium with each other is called as a vapor pressure. Okay. Suppose take a liquid, so that liquid can convert into a vapor state. So that means the same molecules can be present in the vapor state also. That vapor state substance can exert a pressure, can show a pressure on the liquid surface when both liquid and vapor states both are in equilibrium. That pressure is called as a vapor pressure. Okay, now the pressure exerted by a vapor over a liquid surface when they are in equilibrium with each other is called as a vapor pressure. So next one is in liquid solution. Where we are observing this vapor pressure effect means in liquid solutions. So what is in liquid solutions? So liquid, already we know that the solution is nothing but in this chapter we are discussing about the binary solutions. So solution, that means solution is nothing but it contains two parts. One is in solute, or we can say that component 1 and solvent. Solute and solvent. So this cannot be called as component 2. That means it is a mixture which contains two components, component 1 and component 2. Or solution is that one which contains solute and solvent. Already in the previous class we discussed about the different definitions of solute and solvent. Okay, now solute and solvent. In liquid solutions, so solvent must and should be liquid. What is the nature? What is the state of the solvent? It is liquid. And what about the state of solute? That means based on the states of solute and solvent, solutions can be classified into 9 types. In the previous class also already we discussed this one also. Okay. So what is the state of a solute? It may be solid or liquid or gas. Okay, that means solute may be present in the form of solid or liquid or gas. But the solvent must and should be present in the liquid. Then only we can call it as a liquid solution. Okay, now. So already we discussed about the gas in liquid in the previous class. Okay, now we are going to discuss about the solutions which contain solid in liquid and liquid in liquid. So in this one, so here we have to take in today's discussions we have to take the solid which is non-volatile in nature, and liquid volatile in nature. That means here we have to select the solute which contains non-volatile in nature and liquid is volatile in nature. And what about the solvent? It is always volatile in nature. That means in today's class I am going to discuss about the two solutions, and is solid in liquid and liquid in gas. Okay, now. So in solid and liquid I have to take the nature of the solid as non-volatile and liquid as volatile. And in liquid solute in liquid means, so the liquid's nature should be volatile and the solvent nature is volatile. Okay, now let us say about the vapor pressure of liquid solutions. So vapor pressure pressure of liquid solutions. In that one, vapor pressure of liquid solution. That means in this heading we are going to be discuss about the two concepts. One is vapor pressure of liquid solutions and another is the vapor pressure of solid in liquid. Vapor pressure of liquid solutions. Vapor pressure of liquid solutions. So already we learned about the definition of vapor pressure. Next, liquid solutions. In liquid solution, one must should be the solute and another one is a solvent because it is a binary solution. Okay. Or we can say that component 1 or component 2. Component 1 and component 2. Component 1 and component 2. Okay. So in this one, what is the nature of the solute? It is volatile in nature. And what about the solvent? It is also volatile in nature. That means both solute and solvent are volatile in nature. That means here we have to choose a liquid solution which contains solute and solvent, both are volatile in nature. Okay now. Next here, let us see. Now let us take the container which is closed with a lid. Okay now. So here in this one, what we are taking? We are taking the mixture. That is nothing but solution. Okay now. So here we take a container which is having a lid or closed with a lid. Okay now. We take a closed container. So that contains a solution. Solution is that it contains solute and solvent or component 1 and component 2. Now let us take the vapor pressure or the pressure exerted by the component 1 is taken as a P1. So this solution contains two components, component 1 and component 2. Here the component 1 can show the pressure and component 2 also can show the pressure. So that's why the pressure exerted by component 1 is taken as a P1 and the mole fraction is taken as an X1. And the pressure exerted by component 2 in the solution is taken as a P2 and the mole fraction is taken as an X2. Okay now. And next, suppose take in the separate container which contains a lid. So in this one take component 1 only. It is not the solution one. It is only component 1. It is also volatile in nature. Already what components I have taken here? Just only I have taken the another one also. So here it is also can exert a pressure. It is also contains vapor pressure because these molecules can evaporate. That means can convert into vaporization state. So that molecules can exert a pressure on the liquid surface and they can be present in the both they can present in the equilibrium state. So at that time the pressure exerted by the vapor on the surface of the liquid is called as a vapor pressure. Okay now. That vapor pressure can be taken as an P1 naught. Why are taking P1 naught means it is a pure substance. We are not adding anything to it. Just we are taking one component only in this container. So that's why the pressure exerted by this compound is called as a P1 naught. It is a pure one. And take the another one also in the same way. Take the component 2. So this contains component 2. So here also we can observe the pressure that can be taken as a P2 naught because it is also a pressure exerted by the second component or this component that is, and it is also in a pure form, so that is taken as a P2 naught. Okay na? So here first of all I will take a mixture in a closed container. So that mixture contains both components, component 1 and component 2. Here the vapor pressure exerted by the component 1 is taken as an P1 and the mole fraction is taken as an X1. And next the pressure exerted by the component 2 in the mixture is taken as an P2 and the mole fraction is taken as an X2. Okay now, suppose take the separate containers and then we take the components separately in separate containers which contains lids. Okay now. So there also they can exert a pressure because both are volatile in nature. Take component 1, it can convert into vapor state. So it can also have the vapor pressure. So that vapor pressure is taken as a P1 now. and for component 2 we are taking as a P2 naught. This naught indicates pure. Okay now. And next, according to Raoult's law. According to Raoult's law. So what we know about Raoult's law? According to Raoult's law, the partial vapor pressure of a component of any component present in a solution is directly proportional to a small fraction. The partial vapor pressure of any component, the partial vapor pressure of any component present in a solution is directly proportional to its mole fraction. Its mole fraction. It is nothing but the partial vapor pressure of any component present in a solution is directly proportional to its mole fraction. It is nothing but P1 is directly proportional to x1. P1 is directly proportional to x1 for one compound, and P2 is directly proportional to x2 for the second component. So this can be written as P1 is equals to P1 naught into x1 and P2 is equals to P2 naught into x2. Where P1 naught and P2 naught are the vapor pressures of pure components 1 and 2. They can be considered as a constant. So whenever we are removing the proportional means you should keep a constant. Here we are considering that constant as P1 naught and P2 naught. Okay now. Next, after this, according to Dalton's law of partial pressure. According to Dalton's law of partial pressure. So what is the definition of a Dalton's law of partial pressure? So already you learned this definition first year month. Dalton's law of partial pressure. So what is it? The pressure exerted by a total mixture of a gas and mixture of a substance is equals to the sum of the partial pressures of components present in that mixture. Okay now. That means the P total is equals to, here how many components are present? 2 components. Those are P1 and P2. Okay now. P total, that means we are calculating the pressure of this total mixture. Here we are calculating the pressure of this total mixture means we have to add the partial pressures of first component and second component. P1 plus P2. So what is the value of P1 here? P1 naught into x1. So substitute those values here. P1 naught x1 plus P2 naught x2. P2 naught x2. So this equation I am writing like this. P1 naught into 1 minus x2 plus P2 naught into x2. How we are getting this 1 minus x2 instead of x1 means, so already we know that from mole fraction x1 plus x2 is equals to 1. It is nothing but x1 is equals to 1 minus x2. From mole fraction, the sum of the mole fractions is taken as a 1. x1 plus x2 is equals to 1. So that's why from this equation we can write x1 is equals to 1 minus x2. So that I substitute here. So now multiply it. What we get? P1 naught plus P1 naught minus P1 naught x2 plus P2 naught x2. From this, okay, we can take the common as x2. So it is nothing but P1 naught plus x2 into P2 naught minus P1 naught. P2 naught minus P1 naught. Okay now. So according to Dalton's law of partial pressure, the total pressure exerted by a mixture can be calculated as it is a sum of partial pressures of all components present in the mixture. So P total is equals to P1 plus P2. Here we consider only 2 components in the mixture. So that's why P1 naught, that means by substituting P1 and P2 values, we can get P1 naught x1 plus P2 naught x2. Next, this x1 can be written as 1 minus x2 because already we know that x1 plus x2 is equals to 1. So by multiplying and taking off x2 as common, we can get the equation as P total is equals to P1 naught plus x2 into P2 naught minus P1 naught. Okay, now. So from this equation, we can tell that the vapor pressure of a solution can be dependent. The vapor pressure of a solution can depends on the mole fraction of any component present in the solution. So from this equation, what we can conclude that the vapor pressure of a solution can depends on the mole fraction of any component present in the solution. Any component means here we are writing x2. So instead of x2 we can write x1 because instead of substituting x1 value we can substitute x2 value also. That's why I take as any component. The vapor pressure of a solution will depends on the mole fraction of any component present in the solution. Okay, now. So how it is depending means, so linearly dependence. It is nothing but if mole fraction value increases, vapor pressure is also increases. If mole fraction value is decreases means vapor pressure is also decreases. So it is about the vapor pressure of liquid solutions. So let us see here now. So in vapor pressure of liquid solutions, so you have to take the two components. One is component 1 and component 2. Both are having the volatile in nature. So in this one, so I have to take a mixture in a container which is having the lid, and there we can write the pressure and mole fractions of one component as P1 and X2, and for the second component can be written as P2 and X2 in solution. Okay, now next, those substances if we take separately component 1 in one container and component 2 in one container, they can also show the vapor pressure that can be taken as a pure vapor pressure of that compound. So it can be indicated as P1 naught and P2 naught. Okay, now. So according to Raoult's law, the partial vapor pressure of any component present in a solution is directly proportional to its mole fraction. So P1 is directly proportional to X2 for component 1 and P2 is directly proportional to X2 for the component 2. And substituting and by removing the proportionality, we should keep a constant. That constant we are taking in here as P1 naught and P2 naught. And next one is the Dalton's law of partial pressure. So according to Dalton's law of partial pressure, P total is equals to P1 plus P2. So by substituting the values, and we can get the equation as P total is equals to P1 naught plus X2 into P2 naught minus P1 naught. By seeing this equation, we can conclude that the vapor pressure of a solution can be depends on the mole fraction of any component present in the solution. How it is depending means linearly dependent. Linearly dependent is nothing but if one is increases, another one is also increases. It is about the vapor pressure of liquid solutions. Vapor pressure of liquid solution. And next one is vapor pressure of. And the next topic is vapor pressure of solids in liquid. It is also a liquid solution, but what is the nature of this solute? Solid. Okay, now. So here solid is a solute and liquid is a solvent. And what is the nature of these two? Solute we have to take as a non-volatile solute, and for the solvent I take as a volatile solvent. So before discussing this one, so now I will just wait. I will explain a graph which is drawn in between the vapor pressure of a solution and the mole fractions. Okay, before this one I will explain that one. So here we can draw a graph in between vapor pressure and mole fraction by taking mole fraction on x-axis, mole fraction. So here x1 is equals to 1 and x2 is equals to 0. And here x1 is equals to 1, x0 and x2 is equals to 1. Next, so here we have to take the vapor pressure. vapor pressure. So then here we can get a straight line which is passing through the origin. For the second compound also we can get a straight line which is passing through the origin. Okay now, and this is called the total pressure. This is called as total pressure. So here we are drawing a graph in between partial mole fraction and vapor pressure. Okay now. So next here, this one indicates P1 naught and this is indicates P2 naught. And this is P2. This is P2 and this is P1. Okay now. P1 and P2. This is P total is equals to P1 plus P2. And when we are getting this type of a graph means when P1 naught is less than P2 naught. Here we are taking the different solutions. Even though both are volatile in nature, the volatile capacities differs. So that's why here the vapor pressure of pure component 1 is less than that of the vapor pressure of pure component 2. Whenever we are taking this condition means we can get a graph like this for vapor pressure of liquid solutions. Okay. So here we are drawing a graph in between mole fraction and vapor pressure. Then we can get a straight line which is passing through the origin. Next, so in this one, what is the condition means P1 naught is less than P2 naught. Now let us see about the vapor pressure of solids in liquids. Vapor pressure of solids in liquids. So already I explained about in solids and liquids means what is the nature of the solid? It is a non-volatile and solid is volatile in nature. Okay now. So solid, it is a solute. And what is the nature of this one? It is non-volatile. Solute, or we can write as a component 1 mark. It is solvent. For your clear understanding only I am writing here. And next, what is the nature of solute? It is non-volatile in nature. And what about the solvent? It is volatile in nature. Okay now. Next, what is the non-volatile? They cannot convert into vapor state. Okay now. So examples for the non-volatile solutes are sugar, salt. Examples for the non-volatile solutes: sugar, salt, and etc. we can write. For volatile, we can make it as a water. You know very well about water, no? So water is a volatile substance. Okay now. So here, first take a container. Okay, and that means here I take a closed container which contains pure solvent first. Pure solvent. That means here just we are taking as a solvent. What is that solvent in this example? That is water. Okay now, suppose it is a surface of the surface of that solvent. So here we can observe presence of water molecules. Isn't it? So these surface molecules so here we take one of the closed container. In that one solvent is present and the surface area is occupied by the solvent molecules only because it doesn't contain any particles or anything. Okay, only it contains solvent only. So now these surface molecules can convert into vapor. So if how many number of molecules are present at the surface, they can convert into vapor. The surface molecules can convert into its vapor state. Next, take another container. Okay, so it contains solution. Solution means the non-volatile solute is added to this solvent when it becomes solution. So here the surface area can be occupied by the both, that means solvent molecules and also solute molecules. Okay. So here the surface is occupied by only the solvent molecules. Here the surface is occupied by the both solute and solvent molecules because both are present in the mixture. Okay. Now which are converting into vapor state? Only the solvent molecules, not the solute molecules. Because what is the nature of the solute? It is non-volatile in nature. And what is the nature of the solvent? It is volatile in nature. So that's why that number of molecules can convert into vapor phase. Okay. Now let us see here. By observing this diagram, so we can easily tell that the vapor pressure of solvent is more than that of the vapor pressure of the solution because it contains a non-volatile solute. Okay, so here the vapor pressure of solvent is more than that of the vapor pressure of solution because the solution contains non-volatile solute. Okay, now because they are not converting into vapor state. When they are not converting means they cannot produce, they cannot show the pressure on the surface of the liquid. So that's why. So here see here how many number of molecules are there? More number of molecules. Here less number of molecules. So more number of molecules can show a more pressure or high pressure on the liquid surface than the less number of molecules on the liquid surface. Okay now. So next, whenever we are drawing a graph in between these two, that means here we are taking only one now. So here also we have to draw a graph in between mole fraction and vapor pressure. Mole fraction and vapor pressure. So here also we can get a graph which is passing. Sorry, here also we can get a straight line which is passing through the origin. X is equals to 0. Okay. And it is about the vapor pressure of solids in liquid. So in this vapor pressure of solids in liquid, so we have to take a solid which is non-volatile in nature and liquid is volatile in nature. So next, first of all, I will take a solvent in one container. That means the surface of the liquid, whatever we take, that is occupied by the solvent molecules only, and they are having volatile in nature. So they can easily convert into vapor state, and they can produce, they can show the pressure on the liquid surface also. Next here, let's take another container which contains solution. That solution contains solute. What is the nature of that solute? It is non-volatile in nature. Now here, the surface is occupied by both the molecules, solvent molecules and also the solute molecules. The solute molecules cannot convert into vapor state. So that's why you can observe only the presence of solvent molecules in the vapor state, and that too less number because the surface is occupied by the solute molecules also. They cannot converting into the vapor state. Okay, now that means less number of molecules are present on the surface of the solution when we compare with the surface of the solvent. So by seeing this, we can easily understand that the vapor pressure of the solvent is more than that of the vapor pressure of the solution. Vapor pressure of the solution. So it is about the vapor pressure of liquid solutions. So here also we can derive an equation from Raoult's law. So what is that Raoult's law? P1 is directly proportional to x1. So P1 is equals to P0. So P1 naught into x1. So then we can draw a graph in between vapor pressure and mole fraction. We can get a straight line which is passing through the origin. Okay now. Next, we can enter into the next topic now. That is ideal and non-ideal solutions. Ideal and non-ideal solutions. 0 and 1 here. Ideal and non-ideal solutions. Ideal and non-ideal solutions. So ideal solutions are nothing but the solutions which can obey Raoult's law. The solutions which can obey Raoult's law over entire range of concentrations is called as an ideal solutions. Ideal Raoult's law over entire range of concentration. Entire range of concentrations is called as an ideal solutions. And non-ideal solutions is nothing but which cannot obey Raoult's law over the entire range of concentration. Ideal is nothing but the solutions which can obey Raoult's law over entire range of concentrations is called as an ideal solutions. And non-ideal solutions is nothing but the solutions which cannot obey Raoult's law over entire range of concentrations is called as a non-ideal solutions. Okay now. So they are not obeying Raoult's law means they can show two types of deviations. One is a positive deviation and another one is a negative deviation. Positive deviation and negative deviation. Positive deviation, negative deviation. So positive deviation means, so suppose here take a components. Suppose here take AA is one component and BB as another component. Here we are taking two components. No? One is an AA component and another one is a BB component. Now make a mixture of these two. What we can get? It is a mixture of AB. Mixture of AB. So now in this one, now let us see the interactions of AA and BB. So whenever the interactions of AA or BB is more, the interactions of AA or BB are more than that of the mixture, that means in between AB, that can show the positive deviation. They can show the positive deviation. Okay now, if they are less, they can show the negative deviation. The interactions of AA or BB is less than the interactions of AB, they can show the negative deviation. Negative deviation. And also for ideal solutions, we can say that the delta H mixture is equals to 0 and the delta V mixture is equals to 0. That means for ideal solutions, we cannot observe the absorption of heat or releasing of heat. Okay, now, and also there is no change in the volume of the ideal solution also. Before and after. Before and after also we are not observing any change in the volume for ideal solutions. And for non-ideal solutions, automatically it is not equals to 0. So ideal and non-ideal solutions. Ideal solution is nothing but the solutions which obeys Raoult's law over entire range of concentration is called as an ideal solutions. And ideal solutions can have the property of delta H mixture is equals to 0 and delta V mixture is equals to 0. That means there is no absorption or emission of heat energy will take place for ideal solutions. In the intermixing of ideal solutions solid, they cannot produce any heat or absorption. So for delta V is also 0. There is no change in the volume before and after. And for the non-ideal solutions, the solutions which cannot obey Raoult's law over entire range of concentrations is called as a non-ideal solutions. These non-ideal solutions can show the positive deviation or negative deviation. That means they are not obeying Raoult's law. So that's why they can show the positive deviation or negative deviation. That means they can get less value or more value than the Raoult's law. Okay now. So suppose take here we are taking the example of component 1 as AA component and BB component. So here we can observe the interactions of AA or BB. If the interactions of AA component or BB component are more than that of the mixture of AB component, then they can show the positive deviation from Raoult's law. And if the interactions are less, that can show the negative deviation from Raoult's law. Let us see the graph for positive and negative deviations. So for positive deviation, we can get the more value. So it is an ideal solution. Suppose it is an ideal solution. It is for ideal solution. So it is a straight line. We have to get a straight line. But whenever we are taking the solution, non-ideal solutions, they can show a positive deviation like this. That means they can get a curve like this. We can get a curve like this. And for the second component also, we can get a curve like this. This is for positive deviation. That means we are getting more value. Okay now. And next, automatically the P total value is also increases. Okay now. The partial pressure P1 value is increases and P2 value is also increases. Automatically the total pressure value is also increases for positive deviation. It is for positive deviation and it is also for positive deviation and it is also for positive deviation. Okay. Next, for negative deviation curves, so we can get the low value than the previous one. Okay, it is a negative. The solutions which can show the negative deviation from Raoult's law, they can show the graph like this. They can apply graph like this, and from this one also negative deviation, and here we can get a graph like this. This is the negative deviation. This is the positive. Positive means more. So it is an ideal solution behavior or ideal solution graph. So whenever you are getting more value means positive, positive, positive and positive. And next negative, negative and negative. It is about the vapor pressure of liquid solutions. Vapor pressure of liquid solutions. So once again listen here ma'am, ideal and non-ideal solutions. So ideal solutions are nothing but the solutions which obeys Raoult's law over entire range of concentration is called as an ideal solution. So ideal solutions can have the properties as delta H mixture is equal to 0 and delta P mixture is equal to 0. That means it cannot absorb heat or it cannot release heat energy. Okay, absorption of heat energy or releasing of heat energy does not take place for ideal solutions. And for volume also there is no change in the volume of ideal solutions. Next, for non-ideal solutions. Non-ideal solutions are nothing but the solutions which cannot obey Raoult's law over entire range of concentration is called as a non-ideal solutions. So non-ideal solutions can show the two types of deviations from Raoult's law. That is positive deviation and negative deviation. So for the explanation of these deviations, here we have to take two components, one is an AA component and BB component. Here we have to observe the interactions in between AA and BB. Next, mix these two, that means AA component, BB component, then we can get a solution. Okay, now observe the interactions of this solution which contains AA and BB. That means here we are observing the interactions between A, B. If these interactions are, that means, the interactions of AA or BB are greater than that of the interactions of AB, that shows the positive deviation. If the interactions of AA or BB will less than the interactions of AB, they can show the negative deviation from Raoult's law. So already we draw a graph in between vapor pressure mole fraction now. So let us see the positive deviation curve, negative deviation curve. Okay now. So for this one here, so it is an ideal solution curve. This dotted line indicates the ideal solution curve. So for the positive deviation, the vapor pressure of one component is increases now. So that's why we are drawing this line. It is a positive deviation. And also this one also positive deviation. Because we are getting more value than the ideal solution. Next, automatically the P total is also increases with the increasing of the partial pressures of P1 and P2. Okay. Next, it is about the positive deviation curve. Next, negative. Negative means here we are getting a less value than the previous one. So that's why here we are getting the curve like this. And also this one. And the next one is the pressure total, that means total pressure is also decreases. Okay now. So it is about the ideal and non-ideal solutions. Next, we will enter into the next topic. colligative properties. So this concept is important for 4 marks question. Okay, colligative properties. Colligative properties. Okay. Next, what are the colligative properties? The properties of dilute solutions, which depends on the number of solute particles present in a solution, is called as a colligative properties. So now let us write the colligative properties definition. The properties of dilute solutions. The properties of dilute solutions which depends on number of solute particles or molecules or ions present in a solution. The properties of dilute solutions which depends on number of solute particles or molecules or ions present in a solution, those are called as a colligative properties. Here the properties of solutions, that means here we take the dilute solutions. Dilute means the amount of solute is less in a solution. The solution is nothing but solute and solvent. So here the percentage of presence of solute is less when compared to the previous solution, dilute solution. Okay now. So that's here the lesser amount of solute is present. That we should remember here. And also the properties which depends on the number of solute particles present in the solution is called as a colligative property. That means some of the properties of dilute solutions can depend on the number of solute particles present in a solution. Now let us see what are those properties. Here we have the 4 types of properties. One is an relative lowering of vapor pressure of the solvent. Relative vapor pressure of the solvent. And the second one is elevation in boiling point. Elevation in boiling point of the solvent. Boiling point of the solvent. And the third one is depression in freezing point of the solvent. Depression in freezing point of the solvent. And the fourth one is osmotic pressure. Osmotic pressure of the solution. So the first one is relative lowering of vapor pressure of the solvent, and the second one is elevation in boiling point of the solvent, third one is depression in freezing point of the solvent, and the fourth one is osmotic pressure of the solution. Osmotic pressure of the solution. So now we are going to discuss about one by one. Okay now. So what is the first one? Relative lowering of vapor pressure. That means how the vapor pressure is varying. That one we have to calculate now. Okay now. First one is the relative lowering of vapor pressure. Relative lowering of vapor pressure of the solvent. Relative lowering of vapor pressure of the solvent. Okay. So in this one, so here I have to write as according to Raoult's law, what we can write? According to Raoult's law, Yes, just now only we wrote no. So Raoult's law means, so the partial vapor pressure of one component is directly proportional to its mole fraction. Is directly proportional to its mole fraction. P1 is directly proportional to x1. So here we can write as a P1 is equals to P1 naught into x1. P1 naught into x1. Just now only we discussed now. So that's why I am not explaining again and again. So P1 is directly proportional to x1 according to Raoult's law, and that equation can be written as P1 is equals to P1 naught into x1. So next, now let us see the lowering of vapor pressure. Lowering of vapor pressure. So what is the lowering of vapor pressure? So it is nothing but it is in delta P. The lowering of vapor pressure can be indicated as delta P. Delta P is nothing but change in the pressure. Change in the pressure or change in the vapor pressure. So how we can get this change in the vapor pressure means, suppose take a pure solvent. Pure solvent. It have the more vapor pressure than the solution. Just now only we discussed. Okay now. So this can be written as P1 naught minus P1. P1 naught minus P1. So that is lowering of vapor pressure. Lowering of vapor pressure is nothing but change in the vapor pressure. How we can calculate this change in the vapor pressure means, the vapor pressure of a solution can be subtracted from the vapor pressure of a pure solvent. That will give a change in the vapor pressure. Change in the vapor pressure. Already we know that the vapor pressure of a pure solvent is more than that of pure component is more than that of the vapor pressure of the solution. So delta P is equals to P1 minus, so P1 naught minus P1. P1 naught minus P1. Next here, so what is delta P, what is P1 value? So suppose take it as equation number 1 and it is equation number 2. Substitute equation 1 in equation 2. So what we can get, delta P is equals to P1 naught minus, substitute P1 value here, P1 naught into x1. P1 naught into x1. Okay, delta P is equals to P1 naught minus P1 naught into x1. Okay now take P1 naught as common. P1 naught into 1 minus x1. It is nothing but P1 naught into x2. Already we know that 1 minus x2 is equals to, 1 minus x1 is equals to x2. Because x1 plus x2 is equals to 1. So 1 minus x1 is equals to x2. So P1 naught into x2. Okay now. So next, what is this value? This value is delta P. Okay now. Next, send this P1 naught to this side. So we can get delta P by P1 naught is equals to x2. Is equals to x2. It is nothing but this is called the relative lowering of vapor pressure. So delta P is nothing but lowering of vapor pressure. That means change in vapor pressure can be called as a lowering of vapor pressure. Next, the ratio between delta P, that is ratio between lowering of vapor pressure to the P1 naught is called as a relative lowering of vapor pressure. So relative lowering of vapor pressure is nothing but it is a ratio between lowering of vapor pressure to the top of the vapor pressure of a pure component. Vapor pressure pure component. It is a ratio between lowering of vapor pressure delta P to that of vapor pressure of pure component is called as a relative lowering of vapor pressure. This total term is called as a relative lowering of vapor pressure. Relative lowering of vapor pressure. Next, this is equals to x2. So what is meant by x2? It is a mole fraction. So it is a mole fraction. So how we can calculate that mole fraction? So instead of delta P, substitute the delta P value. What is the delta P? P1 naught minus P1 naught. So substitute that value. What we can get here? P1 naught minus P1 by P1 naught is equals to x2. x2 is a mole fraction. How we can calculate the mole fraction? The number of moles of one component by number of moles of all components present in a solution is called as a mole fraction. So x2 is nothing but N2 by N1 plus N2. N2 by N1 plus N2. Next here we can write this equation as N2 by N1 because here N1 is far less than that of the N2. Sorry, N2 is far less than that of N1. Correct one? N1 is far less than the N2 is far less than that of the N1. Okay, no? So here N2 by N1 plus N2 can be written as N2 by N1 because in the denominator we can record the N2 value because N2 value is very less when compared with the N1 value. So that's why I write it like this. So N2, it is nothing but component 2. Okay now. So if we observe that component 2 as a solute. Okay now. So it is nothing but P1 naught minus P1 by P1 naught is equals to N2 by N1. Next, this N2 and N1, suppose take a mixture here. N1, N2 is far less than N1. Okay now. So here N2 is nothing but number of moles of solute. Number of moles of solute. How we can calculate the number of moles weight by molecular weight? So already we know that mole fraction can be calculated as number of moles of one component by total number of moles of all components present in the solution. Next, how we are calculating the number of moles means N is equals to weight by molecular weight. Weight by molecular weight. Suppose if the mixture contains two components. So solute is taken as component 1 and component 2. Component 1 and component 2. Okay now. So what is the weight of this component? W1 and molecular weight is M1. And for this one, for component 2, W2 and M2. Okay now. Substitute those values in this equation. So P1 naught minus P1 by P1 naught is equals to, what is the N2 value here? So from this N2 is equals to weight by molecular weight. It is nothing but W2 by W1. And N1 is equals to W1 by, weight by molecular weight, M1 here, M1. And here M1, W1 by M1. So N2, in the place of N2 what we have to write? W2 by M2 by W1 by M1. So this can be written as W2 by M2 into M1 by W1. So it is nothing but, so by knowing the value of the vapor pressures of solution, solvent and everything, we can calculate the molecular weight of the given solute. Molecular weight of the solute. So what is the solute molecular weight? Suppose consider M2L. So this 2 is belongs to the solute. So we can calculate the molecular weight of the given component by using this equation. So this is the final equation. P1 naught minus P1 by P1 naught is equals to W2 by M2 into M1 by W2. So this equation can be written as instead of W1, that means 1, 2, we can take the small letters and capital letters also. Okay now, so it is about the relative lowering of vapor pressure. Relative lowering of vapor pressure. Relative lowering of vapor pressure. So let us see here. So according to Dalton's law, the P1 is directly proportional to X2. Already we know that. So this equation can be written as P1 is equals to P1 naught into X1. Consider it as equation number 1. And take the lowering of vapor pressure. Lowering of vapor pressure is nothing but change in the vapor pressure. How we can calculate this change in the vapor pressure means P1 naught minus P1. By making the difference in between, by calculating the difference in between P1 naught and P1, we can get the change in the vapor pressure. That can be called as a lowering of vapor pressure. So delta P is equals to P1 naught minus P1 naught into x1. That means here we are substituting the P1 value, which we consider as an equation number 1. So by taking P1 naught as common, we can get the equation as delta P is equals to P1 naught into 1 minus x1. Next, delta P is equals to P1 naught into x2. As we know that 1 minus x1 is equals to x2. So this is called as, and then we send this P1 naught to this side. We can get delta P by P1 naught. This is called as a relative lowering of vapor pressure. It is nothing but the relative lowering of vapor pressure is nothing but it is a ratio between lowering of vapor pressure to that of the vapor pressure of pure component. It is called as a relative lowering of vapor pressure, and that relative lowering of vapor pressure is equals to mole fraction of the second component or any component. Okay now. So here, so P1 at mole fraction. So this x2, that means the mole fraction value can be written as in terms of number of moles. So how we can calculate the mole fraction means number of moles of one component to the total number of all components present in a mixture of solution is called as a, in this way we can calculate the mole fraction of any component. So P1 naught minus P1 by P1 naught is equals to N2 by N1 plus N2. So here we can write this equation as N2 by N1. So in the denominator we can neglect the N2 value because it is very small when compared with the N1 value. Next we can express the number of moles in terms of weights and molecular weights of the components, because the formula of number of moles is equals to weight by molecular weight. So for N2 component we are writing as a W2 and M2. For N1 we are writing W1 and M1. By substituting those values in this equation, we can get the final equation as P1 naught minus P1 by P1 naught is equals to W2 by M2 into M1 by W2. It is about the relative lowering of vapor pressure. So based on this equation, we can get a problem in our examination. Okay, na? Okay, now let us see the problem based on the relative lowering of vapor pressure of a solvent. Okay, so here let us see the problem. The vapor pressure of pure benzene at a certain temperature is given as 0.850 bar. Okay, now the vapor pressure of pure benzene is nothing but solvent. So pure benzene is given as a 0.850 bar. Next, a non-volatile, non-electrolyte solid weighing, that is the weight of the solute. Already we took the pure benzene as a solvent. And next, what is the solute here? They don't give the name. They didn't mention the name of the solute, but they given the weight and molecular weight. Let us see here. A non-volatile, non-electrolyte solid weighing 0.5 grams when added to 39.0 grams of benzene. So that means what is the molar mass of the benzene? 78 grams is given. 78 grams per mole is given. So vapor pressure of the solution there. That means here they took the one of the solution one. That solution contains solute and solvent. The solute is non-volatile solute. Okay now. And solvent is benzene here. The weight of the solvent, the weight of the benzene is given as 39.0 grams and the molecular weight is given as 78 grams. Next, non-volatile solute weight is 0.5 grams. Already I explained that here we are observing the colligative properties for dilute solutions. It is that the quantity of solute is less, very less. So that's why. So here the weight of the solute is only 0.5 grams. Next, already the vapor pressure of the pure solvent is given and the vapor pressure of the solution is also given. But what we have to find out here means the molecular weight. Yes, here molar mass of the solid substance. What is the molar mass of the solid substance? It is a given problem. Here they took the one of the solution which contains solute and solvent. The solvent is benzene. The benzene weight and molecular weight was given and the solute weight is given. We don't know the name, so that's why we can't calculate the molecular weight. Okay, if you know the name, we can calculate the molecular weight by adding their atomic weights of the atoms present in that compound. So here, and also the vapor pressure of the pure solvent and vapor pressure of solution is also given. Now let us write the data here. Okay now. So what is weight of benzene. So I am indicating weight of benzene as W1 is equals, what is the weight? They given 39.0 grams. Next, molecular weight of benzene is given as M1 is given as 78 gram per mole. Gram per mole. So molecular weight of benzene. Okay, molecular weight of benzene. Next, weight of electrolyte solute or non-electrolyte and non-volatile. So here, weight of solute, it is taken as an W2 is equals to 0.5 grams. 0.5 grams. Next, molecular weight of solute M2 is equals to question mark. It is only we have to find it. Next, vapor pressure of pure benzene. It is nothing but P1 naught is equals to, what is the vapor pressure of pure benzene? 0.850 bar. And next, vapor pressure of solution. Vapor pressure of solution is equal to, it is nothing but P1. Vapor pressure of solution is nothing but P1. So it is taken as an 0.845 bar. So it is a given data. Okay now. It is a given data from the question. Okay. Next, how we can calculate the molar mass of a solute? Means already we just now only we derived the equation that P1 naught minus P1 by P1 is equals to, P1 naught is equals to W2 by M1 into, M2 into M1 by W1. So what we have to calculate here? M2. Okay now. And substitute all these values in that equation. So what we can get here? Or we can write the equation first. So M2 is equals to W2 into M1 into P1 naught by P1 naught minus P1 into W1 into W1. Now substitute all those values in this one. M2 W2 is nothing but 0.5 into M1. What is the value of M1? 78 into. Next, what is the P1 naught value? 0.850. 0.850 by, okay. Next, P1 naught minus P1. So what is the value we can get? 0.5 by doing a subtraction here. So 5 and 4 minus 4 is 0 and 0.005. So 0.005 into, next, what is the W1 value? 39 grams. Okay now. So by doing that, by calculating it, so 31 ones, twos. Okay now. So next, 0.5 by 0.005. That means here 1. We can get 1. 1 into 0.850 by 0.005 into 39. So by calculating this, we can get the value as 70. So 170 gram per mole. 170 gram per mole. This is an answer. Just do the calculation now. I substituted everything here. Just we have to do the calculation part only. Just multiplication and division only there here. 0.5 into 78 into 0.850 by 0.005 into 39. doing the calculation of this one, we can get the 170 gram per mole. That means what is the molecular weight of that compound? 170. The molecular weight of the solute is 170. So okay, ma, this is today's class. I hope you understand very well. So we will meet in the next class. Okay, ma. So next qualitative of the remaining three are there. So we will discuss in the next class.